Kodak Retina Reflex S. This is one of a pair of cameras I've been sent by the owner. This one's got its problems. It's very dirty looking at the back there. There's something really odd going on there. I don't know whether that's corrosion or just sort of dirt. There's a lot of grit and rubbish down here. Front doesn't look much better. Nasty damage there to the leatherette. Something's bitten into that. Hopefully I can rescue that. However, this thing, shutter doesn't completely close. Oh, it went that time. Yeah, more commonly it does that sort of thing. So shutter's certainly got a problem. I've only got one standard lens with these cameras, so I will check and see how we get on with this. I want to see what, I'm not happy putting it on with the shutter in that state. I think it'll give me grief. Let me cock that. Frame counter's locked, right, I'll just cock that and I'll fit my lens. I'm most interested in seeing what the state of the prism's like. Oh, I can't see anything. I can't see anything at all. That means that the mirror's stuck up. The mirror doesn't drop to the viewing position, so I've got no idea what state that prism's in. Anything else of note here? Well, that metered window there, that's terrible. You can hardly see anything through that. That plastic has had its day. So capping plate comes down, mirror does not. That's not a good sign. Here's its mate, Reflex 3. Now, this one, the shutter does work after a fashion. It's very unreliable. But look at this. You can see these marks in the top front of the prism housing there. They're very unusual and it's like a repeated pattern across there. When we look at this camera, you can see that the accessory shoe is bashed in. Now what I suspect happened is that in the travel, these cameras are thumped together like that. But instead of being strapped back to back, they've been packed more loosely in the packaging, and the packages are they've simply crashed together. So I really don't know if I can get those dents out of that front housing there. I'm probably going to have to replace that. The shoe, well, there's much more likelihood I can straighten that damaged shoe out, so that's less of a problem. So, two bad cameras, travelled together, and looks like they had a meeting, a clashing of heads somewhere in the middle of the Pacific. Right, this one I'm going to have to take it apart. I'll start by removing the top of the camera, so something through the rewind fork, spin the rewind knob off. 3 screws hold the top cover and this pinhead screw, which I note is loose, which is suspicious. Single screw at this end of the top cover. 2 screws here at the rewind end. Those screws are all chrome plated brass and easily damaged. I can have a closer look at the state of this window here now. 2 major faults. The first is obvious, it's cracked. It's quite common for these to be cracked. The second obvious fault here, or at least obvious to me, is that the surface is incredibly scuffed up, and I think that it's probably solvent damage. Somebody has cleaned that window or attempted to clean it with something very unsuitable. There's a lot of filth here. It's not quite sand. I don't know what that is. It's not good. to the camera itself. Right, I'll start removing some of these pieces and sorting them as I go. Some pieces will go through the cleaner and things like springs will not. I want my prism out of there, I think. Of course, I don't know what state this prism is in. Hopefully it's good, but there's no way of telling because the mirror does not drop down into the viewing position. But very shortly I'll know because I'll be able to look at this prism and see what it looks like. Now, can I wriggle this out? It does tend to catch on this cocking rack here. I'll just wind that forward a bit. Yeah, I've got my prism out and now I can look through it. Well, the little thing from the top of there, that's just fallen off. It's not a good sign. I'm looking. The silvering is a long way from perfect. It's usable, but that's about the end of it. Usable, it's by no means ideal. There's no great dark patches on there, which is good, but the general state of the silvering is it's just a little bit rough. Let's have this rewind off. Now the meter I'll lift off shortly. Let's move to the bottom of the camera. Get the leatherette patch off the film advance lever. Three screws hold the film advance lever in place. Two screws hold this tripod surround back catch release cover. That doesn't really want to come off. That usually means that someone has screwed a tripod screw in there, a badly formed one that's a bit of a tapered one, and it just tends to spread the tripod socket slightly and make it difficult to get this piece off. So we'll have that off, and its spring. Make sure I'm sorting these things into the right container. Now this leatherette, it's damaged, as you can see. I want to get it off in one piece, or with all its pieces, depending on how well this goes. So I'd like to flatten that out and put that all back together again. If I can't achieve that, I'll have to cut a patch into that spot instead. That adhesive's certainly enthusiastic to stay there. I might try a drop of solvent into that. I'll use some naphtha, see if it softens it, see if that'll enable me to get that leatherette off in one piece. Depending on the type of adhesive, this can work miracles. Other times it has absolutely no effect at all. It's not looking particularly promising, I have to say. No, I think the only benefit I'm getting here is that the naphtha is acting as a lubricant for my scalpel blade. Oh, perhaps not. You need to be a bit judicious with applying naphtha in a position like this. You certainly don't want to flood the camera and have solvents run down onto the mirror or anything of that nature. And you need to be fairly sure that what you're using is not going to adversely affect anything. Certainly wouldn't want to use acetone or anything that's likely to eat plastic or paint. That was just one of the little covers from over one of the positions in the on the base plate. That's just covers that the divot to stop the leatherettes from sinking at that point. Okay, it's all but there. Right, that's my leatherette off, and this damaged piece here, hopefully I'll be able to flatten that all out and get that back in position. So that's a little bit of an unknown at this point, but it's hopeful at least. It's certainly better than having no leatherette at all. So I'll take this chrome trim off the base plate. And this will allow me better access to the leatherettes on the front of the camera, which I've got to remove to open the front of the camera. And the front all has to come off before I can remove the meter cord, and so remove the meter, at least in a neat and orderly fashion. Here's one of those little blank discs that I mentioned, and here's where the one that came off that point there. I'll flip that off. Now a little spring just jumped out of here, and that spring sat down in here and that worked the capping plate. And now that's just rolled away. I'll have to find out where that went to in a second, but that's of no importance for the moment. Right, with the base plate off, I can take the leatherettes off the front of the camera. Hopefully they'll come off without too much of a fight. I've just cut that, could have done without that. Try working down from the top. It's a bit it's stuck very well at this point right here, and that makes it awkward because I can't easily get behind it at that point. I'll try coming in from here. Now the leatherette's usually stuck most firmly right at the corner of that body casting. Okay, that's lifting nicely. It's quite inflexible, the leatherette, so I can't just bend it back up too much. I'll break it if I do that. That Naphtha has softened that adhesive enough. Okay, so that's off in one piece. And its mate over here. This one's slightly more awkward because we've got to get it over that boss for the flash connection. And I can see that leatherette's already cracked at that point. I'll put some naphtha on my scalpel blade. And that may soften the adhesive, but it also acts as a lubricant, allows the scalpel blade to slide under easily. Now, dealing with leatherettes is possibly one of the toughest parts of the whole repair of the camera like this. Getting the leatherettes off in one piece, or a minimal number of pieces, so that they can be glued back without obvious injury. Here I'm working back from the end of the leatherette, I'm trying to get it lifted up back beyond the edge. Right, working around this flash boss here is the hard thing to do. See if I can get my tweezers under there to get into those crevices. Yes, okay, so we've got that off in one piece. This piece here is very brittle and easily damaged. Okay, so far so good. I'll remove the front control rings from the shutter. Now these are lacquered in place. I'm going to actually put a drop of acetone on those 3 screws to soften that lacquer. The lacquer causes 2 problems as regarding removing the screws. The first is that it fills up the slot so that you can't easily get your screwdriver engaged, and the second is that it physically locks the screw into place, which is what it's intended to do, and that can make it really awkward to get the thing unscrewed. Okay, so I can lift off those front control rings, pop them to one side, and the pinion here can come off. This one with its shaft can come out. And I'll open up the front of the camera. 4 screws. Under the 4 screws between the front and the camera body there will either be 8 or 12 dish-shaped springy washers. Okay, let's open this up. Here's our shutter assembly. Very sticky. It doesn't close down properly. It's certainly got problems. So the shutter certainly has issues. Let's see if the mirror will lock down into place. Just remove that cam. It's not locking into place. I think that the control arm is bent by the looks of that. That should push down and release this arm. That should release this catch and allow it to swing up. Yeah, this arm's bent. This control arm here is sticky. That's the one that would lock the mirror and allow it to move up. Now something just fell out. That's a film chip. That's a piece of film from between the sprocket holes in 35mm film. I'll recover these washers, and it looks like we do have 12 in this camera. Or we did have 12. Let's see how many we can find. Well, I'll certainly have to do a head count. I wasn't sure I got 12 there. Okay, so serious issues. The control arms for the mirror capping plate and mirror activation are not good. And second serious problem is the shutter assembly. There's something odd going on there. Whether it's the shutter itself or whether it's all this control gear on the back of the shutter, or a mixture of both. It's certainly, things are not good there. Should be fun. Okay, so let's see what else we've got here. I'm going to remove the meter drum and unhook the cord. I can lift the meter off the top of the camera and pull that through. Now the meter selenium cell window here is very dirty and yellow looking, but that'll probably clean up okay. And all of this I shall have to sort out and strip down. But I'm certainly going to have fun with these control arms. They are one of the worst aspects of retina reflexes, unfortunately, dealing with those. Oh, nothing else for it.